Welcome to Adventures in Life. I'm Earl Beecher, your host. Our guest is Ed Fernley, A-S-I-D. He's a nationally famous interior designer. He is a freelance artist working out of the Coordinated Interiors showroom in Salt Lake City, Utah. Ed, what does ASID stand for? I'm not familiar with those initials behind someone's name.
It stands for American Society of Interior Designers.
Interior designers.
As opposed to an interior decorator.
Is there a difference between
them? There is a difference. An interior decorator is anyone who decorates interiors. A house painter could be classified as an interior decorator.
Oh, he could refer to himself that way?
Absolutely, and often does. I think in the Yellow Pages, they even list them that way.
I see.
But an interior designer is one through education and experience is able to complete an entire interior from the planning stage through the whole thing until it's a finished job.
And the whole thing covers
everything that goes in a house. Carpeting, draperies, wall coverings, furnishings, paintings, whatever goes, everything that goes in a house.
Okay. Now, when you start to design, say, a room, let's talk about it. What is the first thing that you decide on?
The most important thing is for the customer to relate to you what color they want to use. That is the basis for everything else. They have to have in mind.
Everybody uses beige, don't they?
Almost. But we find it kind of a lot more interesting if they have a little more imagination.
I see.
And even with beige, you can use it as a neutral background and put something interesting in it.
Now, so you start with the color, and this usually depends on what, well, some of our viewers at home, I'm sure, are thinking about what they'd like to do in a room. So let's just sort of lead them through it, if that's okay.
That's a good idea. Okay. There are many different ways to come up with a color scheme. One mechanical way is to take your colors right off a color wheel. And there are many different kinds of color schemes. For example, if you wanted to use, well, let's say a complementary color scheme, and the easiest complementary is red and green.
In other words, the opposite color on the wheel is a complementary color?
These are complementary colors.
Wouldn't that be kind of strong to have a red and green room?
It certainly would.
I feel very Christmassy.
You could, yes, that's very true.
It's okay during the holidays, but all year round.
You cannot use full strength colors as complements. You use tints or shades. A tint of a color is made by adding white.
To lighten the color.
That's exactly right. And a shade, you add black. If you want to gray the color slightly, you put a little touch of the complement in it.
Rather than using black itself.
That's right. You can use black, but all that does is darken it down.
Makes it gray.
That's right. And if you put in the complement, it'll tone it down and make it a more subtle color, but it'll still have the family, the generic color name in it.
I see.
And that's just one way.
Now, we've talked about red and green. The other complementary colors would be orange and blue, and yellow and purple.
Anything that's directly opposite each other.
Directly opposite on the color wheel.
For example, on this one right here. See, these colors are directly opposite. This one and this one, this one and this one. Anything directly opposite on the color wheel. You might remember a few years ago where turquoise, coral, and brown was such a popular combination.
Yes.
It's a complementary color scheme.
Complementary. So they were
right
opposite.
Across from each other, and by putting black into the red-orange, it makes it into brown. See right here? Okay. We've added black to that.
And so red-orange becomes brown.
That's exactly right. And then we use that as a complement. So we had three colors, but it was actually a complementary color scheme.
I go back a few years before that, and I think everybody was using moss green for everything.
Avocado green and gold, the most popular combination ever devised by man. And the saddest part is...
But it's not popular right now, is it?
No, but it's coming back.
Is it?
It's sort of what goes around comes around.
I see.
Stick around long enough, it comes back.
So you start with the basic color. The person says, I want my room to be warm and cozy. I want to feel comfortable here. I want to come in and feel relaxed. Or how do you determine the color from that?
First of all, they have to give me some indication of what they like. If we're working over a period of time, I always tell my clients, go through shelter magazines, Better Homes and Gardens, House Beautiful, House and Garden, Architectural Digest, and indiscriminately tear out pictures. After a while, you will start finding a pattern evolving.
Just pick the pictures that you like. Oh, I'd like this room, but I don't like that.
Exactly right.
Okay.
And then, after a period of time has passed, you'll find that you are picking the same thing out all the time.
I seem to have stripes in the room every time.
Exactly, or I seem to have a yellow-green, or I don't like a yellow-green, I like a blue-green, and your exposure makes a difference also. If
You're talking about the windows?
North, south, east, and west.
Oh, I see.
If you have a warm exposure and you need to cool it down, you use the cool colors. These colors here, the greens, the blues, the violets.
Those are cool.
Those are cool colors.
Will they make a room feel more relaxed?
Not necessarily. Yes, I take it back. Yes, they will. Because the warm colors, hot colors are more vivid, more vibrant, not as relaxed.
More warm and fuzzy.
Well, yes, I guess so.
Okay.
Why not?
Put it in an emotional.
Surely.
Okay. Now, we've decided on a person has a favorite color, so they tend to go to that.
Exactly right. And there's many different ways of coming up with a color scheme. You can do it mechanically off the wheel. You can see a piece of fabric that you just love. The fabric artists are very talented. They know what they're doing. If you pick a fabric that has the colors you like, and then with some help and direction, other things to go with it, you're likely to come up with an extremely pleasing thing.
So the fabric can set the tone, and this fabric is designed, say it's a floral, it goes with the warm colors, but it doesn't go necessarily with the yellows.
Right.
Let me give you an example.
It's
more toward the pinks or something.
Let's look at an example of a complementary color scheme.
All right.
Now, let's say that we select a fabric like this, which is obviously a red and green complement.
Okay, it's a complementary fabric, yes.
Now, let's say, and as we talk, we're speaking of generalities because there is never anything that all people like. This would go in a green room or a red room. It will indeed. This, let's say, we can have it quilted into a sofa.
Okay.
Then we might want to have a couple of small chairs in the room. See how this picks up all the colors? The green background, the little red dot that picks the colors up, the lighter green that picks these colors up.
Okay, now this has a big pattern, that has a small pattern.
Right.
But they blend.
Exactly. You can use multiple patterns in the room if they're different scale and different pieces of furniture. This is on a big piece of furniture. This is on a small piece of furniture, perhaps a wooden framed chair.
So for just the seat of the chair, and maybe the back.
Maybe the back. We might be doing a country. This has a very country look. So by doing this with it, it gives it even a more country look. And see how we're picking up the same colors? The light color picks the background up. The red is shown in each one of those.
Would you say it ties together?
It ties together. And it's important with a color scheme that you use the same color scheme throughout your entire house. It's a mistake to try to treat each room separately.
Now that's an interesting thought, because I think most of us say, well, this will be my red room, and this will be my green room, and this will be my blue room.
Mistake.
And mistake?
Big mistake.
You can coordinate. Well, okay, what do you do to tie the whole house together and still have my red, green, and blue room?
I can't.
You can't do that?
I don't want to put blue into that room if I'm doing a complementary color scheme.
Okay.
Remember that every person is an individual, and no two people will like exactly the same things. This might be particularly disastrous for one person while somebody else would love it. So you cannot do the same thing for everybody.
Well, you wouldn't want to.
Of course you wouldn't.
So you have to know your client.
You have to know your client, and you get to know them by talking with them, by looking at these pictures that we talked about, by having them give. You have to be a good listener.
Okay.
If you talk to them all the time, you're not going to find out anything.
They're telling me we've got just a minute or so before a public service announcement, so I want to ask you this. Would you use a brighter color scheme in a commercial establishment, such as a hotel, a motel, something like that, than you would in a private home?
Absolutely.
They can be more flashy.
Definitely, no question about it. Some place where you are not going to spend a great deal of time. Even a small bathroom in your home could have much brighter colors because you're not going to be in there that often. But if you're in a room constantly, you want to be careful that the colors aren't so jarring that you can't stand to sit there for more than 10 minutes.
And that can happen.
It can happen.
Let's pause for a public service announcement. We'll be right back with Ed Fernley.
Only you
can prevent forest fire.
And it's true. We know we can count on you to do what Smokey says.
drown your campfires with water. Make sure it's totally wet. Then stir and drown again.
We know we can count on you to do what Smokey says.
Only you can prevent forest fires.
Sally wants to be a surgeon when she grows up. Maybe someday she'll operate on you. Now, would you like this free booklet of simple ways you can help improve her education? Call 1-800-96-PROMISE.
Our guest is Ed Fernley, who is a nationally known interior designer. He works out of the Coordinated Interiors showroom in Salt Lake City, Utah. And one of the reasons I wanted to ask the question about a commercial establishment versus a home is that you did the rooms for one of the famous landmarks there in Salt Lake City, didn't you?
I did. I did all of the rooms for the Hotel Utah.
Now, was one of these used for a famous movie set?
It was. In Dirty Harry, one of the suites that I did for the hotel was used for the room where they stayed.
Was this a room where murder would be committed, or was this a room that was pleasant to live in?
It was pleasant to live in.
I hope so.
That's what we hoped to.
Yes. You were explaining about coordinating colors here and showing different ways that things tie together, small patterns, plaids, florals.
Mm-hmm. I feel like this has a definite country appeal because basically of the plaid. If we do this on a sofa, this on a couple of wood frame chairs.
It could look almost formal, couldn't it?
Absolutely. If you did this formally, we would not use this plaid.
Yes.
It's a little more casual. This on a big chair and an ottoman. Our whole basis for all of this is the carpet. See what it does with this?
Now that is a bright red carpet.
That is red
You see a
carpet.
huge room of that. That would look more like a commercial establishment than a home, wouldn't it?
This would be terrific for a restaurant.
Yes.
Or any place else. But again, remember that color is a personal thing. One person would love this, someone else would hate it. This might be great on a north exposure where we really wanted to warm it up. But
that'd warm it up.
That would warm it up. If we didn't want to do that, look what a different look we would get by using a green. We don't change anything else. We add this. Maybe for our dining room chairs, it ties the whole thing together. The ivory color, the reds, the green. When you use a pattern like this...
Visualize what a room would look like with that. I think it could be very pretty.
Be very interesting. When you use this kind of a fabric on a large sofa, you have to remember you can't use this in a family room because this is a more fragile fabric. This color would soil more rapidly.
Oh yeah, the kids come in with their play clothes and flop down once, and you've got to have the sofa.
That's right. So this is the living room. But we can use this same color scheme all over the house, but we use it differently.
Okay.
Let's go on to another one so that we get another idea of what can be done with a color scheme. This is what we call a monochromatic color scheme. Mono means one, chroma means color.
Okay.
So monochromatic is one color. By one color, we are incorporating all shades and tints of that color, not just the main
Not just the
color.
one solid color, no.
So any color that's in here, remember that we add black to a color to give a shade. We add white to it to give the tint. So this would be a tint, this would be a shade.
Okay.
Let's say this person is crazy about teal, and they have selected, first of all, their carpet. This is the starting point.
Do you usually start with carpet?
Yes.
And you find out the color the person loves and say, okay, well, let's find a carpet you like.
That is correct.
How do you know what carpet to pick? I mean, I watch television, I see the sale, I go in the store and I look around and say, that's pretty. Usually the way I pick carpet is my wife says, this is the one, and I say, yes, dear, and we've got it settled.
Smart man.
Yeah, well, she has good taste. I'm happy with her choices.
Smart man.
But how does a person go about choosing?
First of all, the most important thing is to deal with a reputable dealer.
Okay.
That's the most important thing. You don't want to do business with a hole-in-the-wall store. They are here today and gone tomorrow. If a carpet carries a warranty on it, if they're not there, who's going to
Who do you go to get the
That's
warranty
right.
to work? I see. Okay.
Primary thing, a reputable dealer.
Okay.
Second thing, unfortunately, this is true, you get what you pay for. May sound corny, but it's true. Every single dollar makes that carpet that much better.
Should a person really try to get a wool carpet or a rayon or a dacron? What are all the fabrics? I mean, there's...
The standard of the industry has always been wool, but wool has become so increasingly expensive that it's almost, you seldom find wool. You'll seldom find wool. You'll never find wool in a roll in a carpet store because it's very expensive.
Oh, you won't find it in a roll?
It would have to be special ordered for you.
Awesome.
The standard in the industry at this particular time is nylon, 100%. Polyester is very popular. A polyester nylon blend is not bad.
Now, those are stain and dirt resistant, aren't they?
They are. Resistant is the key word. There's no such thing as stain proof.
No, because not with my grandchildren.
Not with anybody. And
Okay.
anything that's dropped on a carpet, especially nylon, which is such a tough fiber, it will not penetrate the fiber if you get it off immediately. If you leave it
Okay.
on there too long, you're going to have a problem, and then it's better not to try to mess with it yourself. Get a competent, professional carpet cleaner.
Okay.
Okay, we've got that. This whole room is going to be monochromatic. So we select this for our
that's
sofa.
elegant looking.
Now, this is very formal fabric.
It looks
So
it.
this would be 18th century English. This could be French provincial. We pick a darker color to go for our larger chair and ottoman. Perhaps our smaller chairs in a little different, lighter shade of these colors. And the stripe will put the whole thing together for our dining room. Now, with a room like this, you've got to
That
have
looks
something more.
quite formal, doesn't
It's
it?
very formal. You need, in every room, something light, something dark, something bright, something shiny, something dull. So in a room like this, brass would be a nice feature. A brass and glass coffee table, brass lamps. Black
Okay.
and white can be used as an accent with any color scheme.
Black and white, any
and
color
white,
scheme,
any
'cause
color
they're
scheme.
neutral.
Exactly right.
Okay.
And you see a black, maybe a black ebony grand piano.
Oh, yeah.
See how it would stand out in here?
Beautifully.
Make a beautiful room. Again, this is a mechanical way to do it. If you wanted to select a color scheme from a painting that you particularly liked, the artist knows what he's doing. You pick his colors.
Leon Franks was a very famous artist in Laguna Beach, and Vernon Kerr was another one. And they said to me one time, pick the painting first. It's always easy to find the fabric or the carpet to go with the painting. But if you've got the room all set up, to find the perfect painting to be the accent, the key,
the focal point.
The focal point. They said that's not always easy to do, to find one that matches exactly.
And many times in the past, I have commissioned artists to paint a painting to go with the room that was already existent.
So it was color keyed to that room.
So it was color keyed. Let's take another example. This is what is called an analogous color scheme. An analogous, or colors that lie directly close by one another on the wheel. That means we can use any of these, but we don't use all of these. We use this, this, all shades and tints. This is a perfect example of that analogous color scheme.
Okay.
Now, with that, we select this fabric, picks that color tone up.
That doesn't appeal to me as much as the earlier ones.
Well, remember, nothing appeals to everybody.
Okay.
Everybody's an individual. That's what makes it.
I think if this were bluer, I would like it better.
Surely. Yeah. And you can change fabrics within this to match these colors.
Okay.
Think this, again, see how it picks up all of the colors that are in here, and you've got a different scale of print. Pattern.
Yeah,
a larger floral, a small one. You can use different patterns together.
Can you use a really big floral in a small room?
I don't see why not.
Can you? Is it smart to use a small floral in a big room?
I don't see why not.
Anything as long as it works.
As long as it's color correct.
Okay.
And careful scale. You would very seldom put a teensy-weensy little mini print on a huge piece of furniture.
It would just
because the piece of furniture, scale-wise, probably the most misunderstood thing in home furnishings is scale. You cannot take a room that's 9 by 12 and put a 13-foot sofa in it, or a 10-foot sofa.
I see.
It just looks ridiculous.
They're telling me it's time to pause for another public service announcement, so stay with us. We will be right back with Ed Fernley right after this.
Tommy wants to design bridges when he grows up. Maybe he'll design one that you'll use. Now, would you like this free booklet of simple ways you can help improve his education? Call 1-800-96-PROMISE. Billy wants to work on airplanes someday, maybe one that you fly in. Now, would you like to call for this free booklet of simple ways to improve his education?
There's an awesome power that can eliminate over half of our nation's defense forces. It's everywhere, and it can strike at any time. Who has this incredible power? You do. If you employ National Guard and Reserve members, you need to use your power wisely, because today, the Guard and Reserve make up over half of our country's defense. So when they need time off to serve, be a hero. Give them the freedom to protect ours.
Our guest is Ed Fernley, a nationally famous interior designer from Salt Lake City, Utah. And if any of you wish to get in touch with Ed or have questions for him, you can do it by reaching me on a number that will be given at the end of the show, and I will forward your request to Mr. Fernley. Ed, you have the different schemes here. You have the carpet. What happens if you change the carpet? Is the carpet the main thing that sets the tone for the room?
Generally speaking, yes. For example, if we have a southern or a western exposure where we want to keep it more cool, we can have this color scheme with this carpet. But look what happens when we change it to a warm color. Everything still goes together, but it gives a whole different look to the whole scheme.
Yes. Now, with the carpet, doesn't light carpet show dirt less than dark carpet, or vice versa?
I would think vice versa. A light carpet will show a lot of dark marks. A dark carpet shows all the light things. If you get too dark of a carpet, dust settles on it exactly the way it does on furniture.
Okay.
So you've got to like the carpet well enough to realize you're going to have to take care of it more than you will a medium value.
A medium value doesn't show dirt as bad as the others.
Exactly right.
Now, is this a medium value?
I'd call this quite a medium value.
That's pretty close to the middle range.
Exactly right.
Now, you mentioned furniture. We won't have time to discuss that very much today, but can you give us a couple of hints on furniture, what we might think about?
There are so many different styles available, but there are only things that are available specifically at a given time. For example, right now, French Provincial is fairly interesting. Most furniture is in the country vernacular at this point in time.
It's popular.
It's popular. But the others will always be available. The main thing to not fall into in decorating is don't follow fads. Just because it's popular isn't a reason for you to do it, unless you can afford to change frequently, and most people cannot.
Well, most people find something they personally like, and then they go with that. Can you mix styles?
Oh, of course. That's called eclectic. There's nothing that's more boring than a room that all matches.
Say that again. I thought we were trying to coordinate things.
Furniture styles.
Okay.
If all of the pieces are exactly the same, a room full of French Provincial legs is a sea of legs.
Okay.
All Queen Anne isn't very interesting. All 18th century English mahogany can be beautiful in a Williamsburg restoration. But remember, we have to live in this house. It can't be something that's just picture perfect. It has to be livable. And by having a few different pieces, antiques look great with almost any style. Brass and glass can be used with almost any style.
Okay. When I think of brass and glass, I think of Art Deco. That's where I come from.
And that is very true, but it's also available in many other things.
I want to thank you for being our guest today on Adventures in Life. I think most of us have to live in a house. It's kind of nice to make it livable. And something that you're proud to be in and show your friends in and have them come in.
And remember, you spend a great deal of time there.
Yes, we do. So our guest has been Ed Fernley, ASID, and I think we explained that at the top of the show, a nationally famous interior designer. Thank you, Ed, for being with us, and thank you for joining us also for Adventures in Life. We hope to see you soon again.
Thank you.